Let's break the mold and stop waiting for the other shoe to drop. Welcome to Stanley on 7. We're here until it's here.
And welcome back. This is Stanley on 7th, your favorite Wild podcast, a Pull Tab Sports production. I'm Ryan Carter here with John King. Hey, Kinger, listen, we had the episode, the draft recap episode, and we were going to get right back after it because there was a quick turnaround into free agency. And then all of a sudden free agency came around and there was nothing really for us to talk about. Not a lot of moves being made by the Wild. So we elected to hold tight, wait for the move. You know, we want to be able to analyze anything that they've got coming. But unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of moves. And, you know, we at the end of the draft episode, we jumped right into Cam Talbot and, you know, what that looks like and sharing the net with Marc-Andre Fleury because the extension had just been released. And, you know, I felt that maybe there was going to be something coming in terms of a response from Talbot or what that would look like. It does seem like Bill Guerin was he was ready to start the year with that tandem and he was happy with it. And all of a sudden, things changed in a hurry. It was at the draft, phone call. And then there's all the speculation that, you know, Cam Talbot wanted out of town, but then he didn't really want out of town. He just wanted to be, if it's a true 1A, 1B, he wanted to have the same term and then the same dollar average as Marc-Andre Fleury. And then, again, it was like 36 hours. Bill Guerin says, all right, you know, I'm not trading you. He gets into the spat with Talbot's agent and boom, he does trade him. But going back on that, it was at the end of the episode. We didn't dive into it. I thought the way that the season ended and some of the comments that came out of like the scrums and the exit interviews that if Talbot was sharing the net when he came back, he wasn't going to be pumped about that. And, well, here we are.
Yeah, I wonder, the thing that's interesting about that trade is, you know, we've been big into culture. You know, we've got a good room. We don't want anybody disgruntled. Mary J. Blige, no drama. She sings that, I think.
Sure, yeah.
Gabe, is that right? Check it.
Gabe's a big Mary J. Blige fan.
I know he is. But I just wonder, like, I don't know, maybe stick to your guns and hang out with the best tandem in the NHL, I think we called it. And people are desperate for goalies. I mean, you can hear the wailing from Toronto right now about this Matt Murray deal. I mean, I just wonder if we could have maybe leveraged Talbot more. He's an all-star goaltender. Even if we moved him later. I mean, I don't know this young kid we got back, Gustafsson, high pick, still super young, and we shed a bunch of salary. But I don't know. It seems I'm kind of changing my tune a little bit to like, it's okay if people are butthurt if we get better. I'm kind of like
people. What do you mean, like the players? Like
yeah, I'm okay. Like if I know because last year we had the best room ever in the history of the NHL. It was like the early years of Menudo.
Yeah.
And you know, we didn't get through the first round, right? So like I think it's okay, you know, to have a goaltender, you know, muttering under his breath maybe for a few months and you move him later, or maybe he changes, or I don't know. It's just I don't know that we got I would have liked to see a player that can go into the lineup come back, but I guess it was just shedding salary was all it was, right?
Well, I think it's shedding salary. It's also shedding distraction. I'm not dealing with it. It's probably maximizing value at the time. I got a couple thoughts on it. So I think Billy Guerin, and we saw it throughout this draft, he's a GM that is not going to stretch things out in nickel and dime. It's like once his mind is made up, boom. Yes. And then it's I'm not trying to get every single piece or asset in return that I can. If a deal makes sense, he'll make it.
Yep.
And if it's good enough for him and fair for both, he'll take it. He's not trying to be one of those GMs that swindles every other GM. I think in time that will pay off for him. It sounds like the LA deal with Kevin Fiala just came about. They offered a pretty solid return, and he's just like, yeah, that's cool. We'll take it. And again, on that draft episode, we talked how that trade might eventually be compared to the DeBrincat trade. Different, but Ottawa or Chicago held out maybe. Who knows what the other offers were, but they got a little bit more in return. and DeBrincat's, you can argue all those elements, but Bill Guerin, comfortable in what he was able to get, did it. And I think the same thing happened with the goaltender. There were photos coming out of the draft and other speculation that it was Toronto going to talk to Billy and what that looked like. And who knows what other deals were out there. But I think we're seeing that Bill Guerin is one of those GMs that is not going to, could you have gotten more for Cam Talbot? I don't think he cares. And he's like, I got something that I like. And I don't know. We'll have to get into agents too in a minute, because I actually think it might be Cam Talbot's agent that cost him in this situation more than Cam Talbot himself.
Yeah, the quotes were feisty.
They're feisty. And that's where it's hard. You have to pick your agent. You have to be smart when you pick your agent and know the type of person that they are. But Marc-Andre Fleury's agent, Alan Walsh, he's a pretty,
Yeah, he likes to make little posts with the knife in the back.
He's a vocal guy too, So these, and I don't know if some of that played into it, right? Where if Alan Walsh is representing Marc-Andre Fleury and Cam Talbot's agent's going to maybe pull some of those same chords with Bill Guerin, and who knows? But we'll have to get into that at some point. Now the return, Gustafson, there's some familiarity there, I think, because Bill had him and maybe he was there while they drafted him. I don't know if he played when Bill was the player development guy in Pittsburgh, but it always seems to be where if you know a guy, it's a little easier for a GM to make a deal like that too. So they know the goaltender. He's big. He has a lot of the components that I think a lot of scouts like in goaltenders. The other thing I'll say is look around the league. Goaltenders. It seems to be legitimately their third or fourth team. They're like their third chance when they finally start to hit it. You can look at Darcy Kemper. It was Minnesota. It was LA. And he finally hit in Arizona. You go up to Jacob Markstrom, some of these guys, right? It was Florida, Vancouver, Calgary finally hits it,
yep.
Right? And you can go around the league, and that happens very frequently. Devin Dubnyk, Minnesota Wild fans are going to be familiar with him. The
All-star.
The Wild were like his fourth team.
Cam Talbot.
It was Edmonton. Yeah, it was Edmonton for Dubnyk. It was Edmonton, Nashville, and maybe there's another stop at Minnesota. These guys take time, and I think you have to roll the dice. And is Gustafson that? Maybe. And maybe we're a stepping stone for him. But at the same time, that trade did free up cap space. I thought that they would go out and use it. They didn't.
So we got to talk about this because we had this big White Bear Lake event where every single hockey person in the city was out. We'll get back to that. But the thing I heard from everybody is, what do you think of the nickel and diamond? So we signed Mitchell Chaffee, $750, Nick Swaney, $750, Brandon Baddock, $750, Stephen Fogarty, $750, Nick Paton, $750, Andre Suster, $750, Zane McIntyre, maybe. I'm assuming he's getting paid $750. So this is the joke on Chicklets was this was the Ottawa $750 special, right? When they were signing all these guys for $750 last season. So we spent our money, $4 million, $750 at a time, nickel slots. Is that good? Are we becoming this homegrown franchise? Tampa Bay, Detroit, I think Colorado would have that, where we're teaching these guys, like you've said, in Iowa. This guy scores 39, the other guy scores 38, Chaffee and Swaney. You're going to get paid, you're going to have a shot. And we're building it from the root up. Is that what we're doing, or what's your take on the nickel and diming?
I think that's kind of smoke and mirrors. So the $750 at a time, how many guys was that? 6?
Yeah, and I know it's the two numbers, so it's it's two-way
deals.
Right? Yeah.
So that's really
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 guys.
So here's my take on that. What they're doing is they want a good veteran presence, like guys that can play and help win in Iowa.
Yep.
So that their young prospects can go there and play and have success and learn how to win. A lot of times you'll get these high-end prospects that are playing on terrible AHL teams, and management doesn't want that. They want these kids, while they're developing their skills and figuring out how to play pro hockey, to also figure out how to win, right? So then all of a sudden they jump into an NHL sweater and they've got a few more of those components. And a lot of these high-end draft picks, are going to come from the national program or, World Juniors and a lot of these tournaments. So they're going to have some of these high pressure situations, and they're going to have the desire and the pedigree of winning. And it's really just facilitating that. So the 750s over 2 ways, like you look at some of these deals, it's 750 over 500,000. That's not a big difference. That's basically, when you see a deal like that, it's more or less saying, okay, you're going to be our veteran go-to guy in the American League, and we're going to pay you $500,000 to do it. At the same time, you're going to be a potential bubble guy. And if we need somebody to come in for a week and we don't want to call up a prospect who's playing well in Iowa, and we just need somebody to play 8 minutes a night on the fourth line, you're going to be that guy. And that's where that other bump to the 750 goes. Some of those guys can play in the NHL, and I do think that the Wild, they like their depth. So Schuster, a big, tall D-man. He's massive. He's a veteran guy. He can potentially play. If they need somebody that can stand in front of the net and take up space, he can certainly do that.
Any other names on this list that are NHL guys?
Patan, I think, is going to – there's a chance that he's going to play. He's going to push for a roster spot.
What's he like? What is he?
I think he's going to be a fourth-line guy. So
Okay.
he's going to be one of those guys that competes for a fourth-line spot, pushes people, good attitude. But again, his money is, I think, 750 up top, 500 in the minors. So it's not that big a difference. But those guys are meant to probably bolster the American League team and then have, an impact to, I don't know, stabilize things at the NHL level. They're not going to burst through. They're not going to. I don't think they're expecting to catch lightning in a bottle with these guys, and then they're all of a sudden going to be the next Ryan Hartman, and one of these 750s scores 30 goals. That's not the case.
So this is like we're a corporation. We're Wild Corp, and then we got the warehouse where all the products going in and out. It's pretty important to our business, and they just paid a bunch of warehouse guys enough money to make sure nothing bad happens in the warehouse.
Yeah, they took care of the guys. They work for them. They've worked for them. I think it's also good that they're rewarding, and we've talked about this in previous episodes, where they're rewarding guys like Duhaime, because if you go in and you play well in Iowa, you're going to get a sniff to play in the NHL, and if you play well there, you're going to get a one-way contract, and then you're going to be an NHL player. It's the progression. And if you commit and you do things right and you play the right way, we'll reward you. And it's similar. And a couple of these guys like Chafee, some of the other ones, I think they're maybe coming out of entry-level deals, these younger guys, and they're still prospects.
So they're scoring points.
Yeah, some of these guys are still prospects.
Chafee
some of the
and
veteran guys,
Swaney look like they put some numbers up this year.
Right, so they're still prospects. And they still have a chance to crack the roster. And now, it sounds so bad. I don't want to lump anybody in or box anybody out. But 23 years old, 22, 23 years old, and you've got your qualifying offer and you sign it and you get a deal at 750 and you're still a prospect. Like, you can still get better. Teams haven't pretty much pigeonholed you into the type of player that you're going to be. When you're older, you get to be 28, 29.
They've read the last page in the book.
You're tapped out on development. You are what you are, right? So the younger guys, there's still a chance that they can crack the lineup, but the Wild save some money. And if we want to dive right into that, my thought is that they were saving some of that for a trade.
So you think there's still something up Billy's sleeve?
I think there's potentially something up Billy's sleeve.
When does that happen? Does it have to happen in July before everyone goes to their cottages, which is a cabin in Canada, everyone? So a cabin is a cottage in Canada.
So
you're welcome.
By the way, should we do something about that? Like, Canada indirectly claims that hockey's their game because after free agency, the draft, they call it cottage season.
I know.
So that means it's like the league is Canadian. No, we should say it's cabin season.
I know. Why is it called a cottage? Seems like
it's the only time you hear cottage.
Is that a British thing? Because they're still dominated by the Queen up there, aren't they? They're still like part of the Queen's. Like, the Queen runs Canada.
I didn't know.
Technically, on paper, I believe.
I didn't know.
Yeah, I think like Trudeau would like tip his cap to the Queen.
Doesn't everybody do that though? I would.
Yes, they probably do, but I think like there's more to it. Like they're still hooked up to that.
Well, the Canadians are a little bit weird. They call like 12th grade 12. Cabins are cottages. They do some things different. But
cottage is like calling someone who makes shoes a cobbler, or like it's like having tea. Having tea and crumpets. I think it's like British. A cottage.
I like cabin better.
I think cabin. So we are a cabin podcast. We are red-blooded. And in World Juniors in Edmonton, you know what's going to happen?
They're going to go to their cabin.
There's going to be a cottage, and there's going to be a cabin, and we're going to take Canada to the woodshed, which is the third thing. That's super confusing. I don't know how it works, but
I was on the lake not long ago, and there was a big debate on the difference between a cabin and a lake home.
I think a lake home is when, so I believe there's a correct answer to this. I always say everyone in Minnesota has a cabin. About 30% of them own it. So my cabin is my mother-in-law's place on Lake Minnewaska. I have no mortgage, no nothing. We go to Costco and bring like Keurig pods up when we visit, right? Maybe get a gift card at Tom's Grocery. I think a lake home means it's your primary residence.
Yeah.
And you're the owner, I guess.
Right.
And a cottage is just the same thing, only you have a ginger beard and a silver medal around your neck because you're a little baby from Canada about to lose the World Juniors.
I think when we settled on the boat was, and we didn't settle on it, it was the debate. It was size. So how big it is, and then the amenities. So if you have like plumbing, AC, if there's a dishwasher in your cabin, if it's basically like your house on the lake, it was a lake home.
You know what I don't like
I do
about
think residency
that,
should matter.
You're bringing this is a bit like you saying they should do the format different for the White Bear Lake Alumni Golf, right?
Yeah.
Because so you're now saying if it's nice enough, it's a lake home.
That's what they were saying. I was saying no.
That's no good because then that hurts people's feelings, right? Like, why is mine not a lake home? Well, because your back door doesn't close all the way and there's a bunch of bugs up by your light.
But then you get like people that live in Edina, like you do.
I don't live in Edina. I live in White Bear Lake, right by you.
They go to the lake and say, I'm going to my lake home. You're like, well, do you live there? No. So
no
it's your cabin.
chance in hell I would ever say I'm going to my lake home. So I think let's set some ground rules for the Stanley on 7th podcast. A lake home is if you only have one primary residence and it's on a lake.
That's your homestead.
I don't care if your cabin is a mansion on a lake. If you also have a city dwelling, it's a cabin.
Deal?
Yeah. Awesome. I'm so glad. We're really helping people out here.
So the trades and stuff happen at any time. And I think one of the things hanging out there and part of the reason.
So you got Billy he's got a card up there. He's hanging on to something. He's going to move somebody we don't expect. He's going to take somebody out of the core and scramble the eggs.
I think that that card is like flexibility. You know, it's a Pilates card, maybe.
Like, could we somehow get Kadri?
No, I don't believe so. But what I think is
God, would that make me happy?
What I think the reason he's keeping this is you might be able to. Okay, remember when Pietrangelo went to Vegas?
Yep.
And Vegas, in order to do that, had to get rid of a good player that was making a decent amount of money, and that was Nate Schmidt.
Yep.
They had to just ship him off to Vancouver for nothing. I think that's what's potentially happening, and this is all speculation.
But we would have to move a guy too.
No, not necessarily. So if somebody,
how do we do it? How do we add somebody?
Kadri that right now doesn't have the space or needs to free up money, Colorado, they would have to give something away. They'd have to find a trade partner. Now, if there's money for the Wild, they can get a good player from a team, right? And not have to give a bunch of assets back, just depending on how much money or where it would fit. I don't know what all that looks like, but I think that's one of the reasons why. As soon as Kadri goes, then I think that the Wild are sitting on their money and they're just waiting.
I agree. He's the Plinko ball. Like the second he goes, I think it all sorts out real quick.
Yeah.
But he's just, I guess they're saying he's just chilling. Sitting, it might be Calgary, which is interesting. Him and Tkachuk paired together now that there's a Johnny-shaped hole up there.
Well, and that's what I mean. So there's both teams. So let's all of a sudden say Colorado can't get the deal done and Calgary wants to do it. Now Calgary might be pinched because Kadri wants so much, but now they're infatuated with the fact that they can get Kadri because they lost out on Johnny Gaudreau, and they'll overpay. But the way they have to do it is, okay, we got to shed some salary here, or we have to do something. And you can get a good piece, like, and who knows what it is. Maybe it's Mangiapane filing for arbitration, you know, and you get that piece for nothing. just because they need to get rid of somebody. And that's all. I have no clue the inner workings there, but I do think that that's the card he has up his sleeve. Is as some of these, as Kadri goes and some of these teams get themselves in a situation, he'll be there to say, hey, I got a little cap space. What do you need?
Yeah, I could see that. Do you think we need to change the so do you think the core we have today is a transition core? It's the guys taking us through the desert of cap hell, keeping the fans happy, winning more than we lose, building towards a championship team on the other side of that crevice? Or is it a group that can burst all the way through? You know, you think of how hard it was, right? We lost to St. Louis. It seemed like the playoffs were like 6 years, after we lost. So you didn't feel like you were close.
Right.
And we were all in love with the team before it happened. So do you think the group we have today is a cup core, or is it like a transition core?
Well, first of all, let's go through the core.
I'm asking you super hard questions. You can also ask me hard questions if you don't want to put yourself out there.
I did ask you a hard question, the difference between a Cottage.
I know. And we totally nailed that one, by the way. I feel like we know what the promo clip is this week.
But give me who you think the core is. I think that this is a debate in and of itself.
Okay, so the core is
the pillar.
Dumba. Well, Kirill.
Yes.
We'll get to him. I have thoughts.
Well, hopefully we can. If we can get to him, we can make a lot of people happy.
We're going to zoom him in a minute. Stay tuned. So we got Kirill, Foligno, Spurgeon, Dumba. I'm going letters, by the way, because it's a big deal. So the three guys in the letter, Kirill, Brodin. I'm not putting Fleury in there. I'm not putting Zuki in there. I know Boldy's going to be a stud, all that stuff. I'm going to put Eck in there. Maybe Greenway's in there. Those 6 or 7 are the core. Would any of those pieces ever move? Because part of me as a fan, and this is nothing against those guys. This is the team I loved last year. My favorite Wild team of all time was the 21-22 Minnesota Wild. But because we didn't get further in the playoffs, if we had one core element, one core ingredient in the cake mix change. So if you took out, one of those defensemen or whatever, and all of a sudden you got I'm making up Kadri. I'm not saying we could get him, but you have some, Tyler Toffoli. You just add one other bigger name to that core mix. Maybe you throw the A on Kirill, and he's in that group of 3. He probably doesn't want to do that because he can't speak for probably 5 years safely. We'll get to that. But do you think that core is the black box of the airplane to get us to the promised land?
Yeah, I do think
they can.
Yeah. Well, I think that the core is, on any team, it is the core that does take you to the promised land. I do think this is a core in transition. And you asked earlier, does culture really matter? I think what I think is happening is that there are veteran players that have been selected as that were part of a group that have been selected as good quality people, teammates, leaders. Not necessarily core components anymore. They're going to fill the void of the core, but they're going to bring the actual core pieces to their maximum.
Got it.
So you have guys.
They're almost like coaches.
Yes. They're player coaches in some degree, player coaches, managers, whatever you want to call it. So that core that there is now is really about being a piece that
turning Matt Boldy into an 85-point guy.
Into core.
Rossi, getting him up to, okay. So he's got the leadership group.
Yes.
No hierarchies, no bullshit,
right.
No make you feel like shit for a year. These are the guys that can help. It's almost like when Billy's not there, those guys are doing all the things he would want them to do.
Yep, and they can help create the core of players and talent
that will eventually win you the cup.
Yes.
Great answer.
Thank you. And
that's damn, between cabins and cottages and technically, just on record, I didn't say culture doesn't matter. Is culture overrated?
Is it overrated?
Kind of like, is it like, like we had the best culture.
So that's
and that cologne ended after game 5 or 6 last year. And like we were sitting there going, everybody loves each other. And then they were at Maynard's the next night. Right. So
to wrap it this full circle, that's part of the reason why I believe Bill Guerin slept on it for 12 hours and then decided he wants to trade Cam Talbot. Because
he doesn't want any bullshit.
The next core goaltender
is the young Swede.
Yes. And he does not want that young Swede growing up in a situation where it's tumultuous between 1A, 1B. How do I see this?
I agree.
And then learning and navigating how to be like an alpha 1A versus a supportive 1B. Or I don't even know the scenarios that could play out. But he's like, you know what? I want a guy like Marc-Andre Fleury, and he wanted Talbot, and he likes Talbot. He does, and he has all the respect in the world for Talbot. But if there was going to be a situation where it wasn't going to develop that next core piece into being super, like the best that he can be, that's why it was like, shoot, I don't want to do this. I love Cam Talbot, but I have to. This is addition by subtraction for the core. This is the plan. It hurts.
Any chance Wallstead put some games in at the NHL level, almost like a Spencer Knight?
Yes.
This year?
Yes.
10, 15 games, something like that?
I don't think that they'll ever put him in a situation where they need to, boy, this is tough. I don't know. It all depends on how he plays. But they're not just going to say, here are some games. It'll all be based on situation. Like, do the Wild need to win, right? And what does that look like?
A back-to-back?
Yeah,
or
I think this is paramount.
See, that would get me super exciting, the baby Jesus goalie.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of the reason why you don't.
His 19, name is Wallstead. We can work with that.
At 19, you don't throw a kid in there with all the expectation in the world. You wait till he's ready. Right?
All right, you're getting me excited about this year.
You make sure he's ready.
So you're saying it's almost like Guerin doesn't want any contamination. He wants it to be clean. He wants it to be pure. It's a bit like how your home system should be.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you get any contaminants and you put some raw materials in there, boom, you've got to have some filters. And I think Bill Guerin, he does have filters in his system. At home, I've got to use
Hey
Aquarius.
Billy, thanks for sponsoring Aquarius Home Services. We'll give you like $50.
I've got to use Aquarius Home Services. Actually, my man Derek, I was on the phone with him on the way over again. I have problem water. It sucks.
Yeah, because you're like in Chernobyl over there.
Yes, like rust, Iron City, valves clogged. He comes over yesterday and he says, "All right, this job should take me about an hour, maybe 2." He comes out after 2 hours sweating.
He's got a tail
disheveled. He's like, I got to go order some more parts. It didn't work. I tried to fix it. It's not going to be fixed. It turns out your stuff is plugged with iron. But I'm already on the books to get it fixed. It's amazing how well of a job he does taking care of me. He went around and sprayed the landscape rocks that had turned orange because they say that they're going to take the water or the iron out of the water.
Are you sure that you're living in a safe area? Do you have dogs die when they're like 2?
It's iron. I'm telling you what, he has a PhD in water, and just from soaking up what he drops, I have a master's degree in water. So if you want to talk about iron and all that stuff, I'll do it. But
I'm getting Aquarius, a reverse retro hazmat suit for Christmas.
Well, I have reverse osmosis in the kitchen. Good water, Kinetico K5 system. I recommend it. But Aquarius Home Services,
earning the right
to be recommended. They solve problem water. I have it. They are solving it. It's fantastic. They've earned the right to be recommended. I recommend them.
Good job.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit 97 because we're not allowed to talk about 97. So,
I don't even want to.
So I got some thoughts on this. I'm going to turn it into a positive. So one of my favorite things about this Kirill maybe being stuck in Russia deal is Minnesotans just randomly have facts about it that I don't know where they get. Like I was golfing the other day and my brother says to me, what do you think about the Kirill deal, being stuck in Russia? And I say to him, before I even know that the words are coming out of my mouth, I say, yeah, I guess he tried to get out of there twice and got denied. Because at some point, a Yahoo article had been sent to me. I did not read the article, but I saw the headline on it. As far as I know, if I would have clicked on that, it would have been, somebody dancing or something, right? But then he says to me, without, like he's teeing up his ball, I think. He's putting it into the ground. He goes, yeah, I heard he tried to get in from the Caribbean once. Like, what in the hell? Like, so Kirill's walking around like Hannibal Lecter at the end of Silence of the Lambs with the straw hat in a Caribbean town and can't get on a plane. Like, it is weird though, right? You know how bad, we can say this because we're not the Wild, but no one can speak about this, but like when basically people are like, just don't say anything and maybe it'll go away. That is like terrifying level of like scary,
right?
Like literally, let's just not say anything and maybe it'll go away. That's like how everything bad in the world happens. Like that sentence. I mean, this is a scary deal. But want to hear my silver lining?
Yeah, sure.
So I think it's a marketing opportunity. So last year we had Sign Kirill. Everybody's anxious. Now we got Save Kirill, Free Kirill. What I would do if I were the Wild is once he's back, I wouldn't tell anybody. I wouldn't have him play in the preseason. Home opener against the Rangers, 10-13. Let's play hockey. He comes out, skates on. Let's play hockey. We get a rubber mat on the stairs. He runs down lower concourse right onto the ice and we start playing. Let's go.
Can you imagine?
Oh my God. Or at least raise him up Harry Styles style from the ice. But I think that would make for bad ice. But I don't know. I guess we just don't talk about it and we assume if you have enough money, everything works out.
You know what
Hashtag live tour. I don't know. Like he's going to be okay, maybe.
You know what I am comfortable talking about? Okay, so let's say that article is factual and the other one said he tried to come in through Dubai or something. Did you hear that?
So like Kirill's out there
hold on.
Traveling around trying to get into the country?
And so this is where it's complicated in my head is they say he's stuck in Russia and can't get out of Russia. Yet it's actually getting into the United States. That's the problem.
But
he's
the
been out
person
of
stopping
Russia.
him from getting... But how can Russia stop you from going through customs in a different country? They can't, right?
No, they can't. So it's the United States that he's not... If that's true...
So then maybe Russia said to the U.S., hey, don't let this guy back in until we sort this out or you're going to have a problem. Yeah, maybe, right?
I'm not... I really don't know.
Are we going to die because we're talking about this?
No. Okay. And that's my point is...
Gabe might die.
I think...
Which was so many studios, let's be honest.
And I don't know how it works, but it seems like if he's in the Caribbean, so if that report was factual,
I like the idea of Kirill in the Caribbean.
Yeah. If that was factual, the reason he wouldn't be able to get into the United States then is that it was the U.S. customs that blocked him from getting in.
Yeah.
Not the Russian. So it's not like he's trapped in Russia, which is what it seems like. But he's not because he's come to these other places trying to get into the States. So then if he can't get into the States, and there's been speculation that he didn't get like a full work visa because through COVID, everything was shut down, that there was,
I love all this janky stuff.
Cross country line.
And then this expired on July 30th. Yeah. And like I've read all this stuff. I hope we're not, as best I can tell, the party line is do not speak about this and maybe it'll be okay. So maybe we're messing that up on the podcast here. But the only other wish I have,
speaking about that stuff,
if we could get them out, the other wish I have is, in crime movies where they wear the masks of the former presidents, when they like rob a bank, I would like that to be somehow involved. Like when we get him in the trunk of a car and we get Kirill back in, I want at least 2 or 3 of the people to be wearing like a Reagan mask and a Bush mask. That's like how I'm picturing this.
So when he goes to say, let's play hockey, he's just going to have gear on and
I want
a Reagan
full
mask?
Gear. So honest to God, I would run through a wall. If everyone thought he was gone and you just had him in a safe house training like Rocky IV, like Drago, he's just training. He's getting better. He's mohawking. And then let's play hockey. And then you got to put the rubber down on the stairs. So he's got to run full speed right onto the ice.
Right through the door in it. And then he's off and going.
Oh, God.
Can you
it almost makes it better.
You'd have to have a big buildup for it. You'd have to have like rally towels that day. Just like,
yeah. But I don't know how you'd keep it a secret though. And then you'd have to blow off the whole preseason. So I don't think they're going to do that.
Oh, you don't think that's how they...
Hey, do you want to talk schedule or Devo camp? Or
well, before we get into that, let's talk Hockey Day Minnesota and what you decided to do that night. So White Bear Lake had Hockey Day 2023 is going to be in White Bear Lake, and White Bear Lake on
January 28th.
and Thursday nights in the summer, they have a cool little thing, downtown Market Fest, and a lot of vendors come in. There's bouncy houses, activities, car shows, you name it. There's a lot, and it draws a lot of people from the community out into the streets. They get together. They shut down it's quite a few blocks.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a party.
Eight Thursdays in a row in the summer.
Yeah,
maybe?
they've got live
6
music
to 8.
at the pavilion, and it's awesome. And Hockey Day kickoff was last Thursday. So there, you talked about it. There was a handful of us there that have played White Bear hockey.
Yep. Lineup announcements for the day.
The announcements for the teams that were playing. Some of the big hitters were out there for the Wild, for Bally Sports, for the local organizing committee. And then to cap it all off at Bigwood, Martin Zeller was there.
Yep.
Little concert late into the night. And I don't know, I think I still have the smell. I can smell it a little bit. And maybe for the cameras, I do notice you're usually like a 2-3 button down guy. You've got you've buttoned up a little extra more today.
Yeah, I'll show it to you. But okay. So I live in Edina, as everyone knows. So I'm not familiar with this event, and I was not there. Okay. So I get there, and as I arrive, Carts, he just referred to the big hitters from Bally, so he's talking about himself in the third person. Carts is signing posters that say White Bear Lake Hall of Fame. So congrats on being a Hall of Famer. I was going to bring a Sharpie. I was trying to get old cards of yours, but I, of course, didn't plan this out in advance. So I was going to wait in line dressed as like an eBay guy.
With a president's mask
get like a whole bag of your cards sold. But so this is, I guess, an apology to our Twitter followers. So a buddy of mine has got this idea in his head that every year we're going to light my chest hair on fire. Now, this has happened twice. Both times you've been there, coincidentally. One time I was so out of it that it sort of happened to me. I was in a prone position. The first time I knew that my chest hair had been lit on fire was the next morning, just smelling a smell. This time I got to make the choice. I made the choice to do it. So that was a positive. He's like, I'm bringing everybody over to White Bear Bar. I got like 100 people. We're going to do this. The problem was it didn't really light. I mean, it didn't go. It was weird. I don't know if I'm cleaner this year or what, but didn't really go. But so the funniest thing is next day, moving slow, having one of those days where you don't eat all day because the day before you just did everything wrong in your whole life. I'm swimming at Lifetime. I go into the hot tub after swimming and I pull up Twitter and I see the video of me with my chest hair on fire. And I immediately think, I really wish Carts wouldn't have posted that. We're going to have a talk about what's fair game and what's not fair game because I don't want people to think I'm a clown or a donkey. And then I realize I posted it at 2 a.m. with no typos, by the way, and a decent caption. So Twitter game remains strong. And I'm just horrified. I'm like, oh my, I put that out there. This is me. I posted this. So anyway, you're welcome for that. I don't know what to tell you. In my defense, it was a code orange. It was, as a person that grew up in the hockey community, not as a player, but as a coach and booster club and all this, it was an amazing night for White Bear Lake. I mean, everybody was out. The Hockey Day Minnesota committee is doing a great job. The Wild were there. It's pretty cool to have this thing come into your town. Hill Murray playing White Bear, one of the best rivalries in all of high school hockey. Hermantown Matamidi, a couple of those big studs are going to stay in high school, I'm told, because they're playing on Hockey Day, which is a neat deal. And Stillwater White Bear girls to start it off. So yeah, I got a little bit carried away. I was excited. And, yeah, and it was White Bear Bar is basically the Bermuda Triangle of our town. So, the one thing I didn't say though, that was the best moment. Bartender jumps on the bar at White Bear Lake and is pointing at me. Stop it! It smells terrible. So I'm like, that's a moment not everybody gets. Yeah. So we had the full shutdown from the lady at the White Bear Bar.
Yeah, it was a great night, and there was a lot of people out. Great kickoff for Hockey Day 2023.
Well executed.
Yeah, everything was great.
Good job, John Anderson, Corey Roberts, Nick Guzzo, Wayne Peterson. Good work.
Again, so to to tell my side of the story. I walk up to the concert finally after doing my thing at Market Fest. It's
Your
late.
Hall of Fame autograph session.
Yep.
Yes,
It's late. It's later in the night, probably 9:00 now. Martin Zeller is playing till like 10, so I get to catch an hour maybe.
Were you warm in your Hall of Fame coat? Were you hot?
It was toasty.
Okay.
So I get there, and what do I see? I see John King behind the VIP line, and there's no way to get in. It's so exclusive.
Checkered wristband.
You
were an RIP.
Yeah, regular important person.
Yep.
And then John goes to the top of some van that is selling beer, and then he's dancing.
There's a balcony up there.
He's dancing on some rooftop.
Yeah, that thing was
basically
cool.
a fence on top of a van, and you're dancing up there
Until it got late. Then the spiral staircase dicey.
Yeah, you come down sweaty.
Was I sweating?
You come down
I've
sweaty.
been having night sweats too.
And then all of a sudden it was up and down. You're like, here, come into VIP for a second. I want to show you Martin Zeller. Come up to the front. So I was able to go up and get like a close look at Martin Zeller.
Yep. You got to see a Minnesota icon.
So then I'm getting ready to leave, and someone tugs on my shirt and says, hey, we're going to the 617. Kinger's burning his chest hair tonight.
I love that this is it's like the ball of twine in South Dakota. Like it's a tour stop.
So everybody's like, we're going. And then the party just kind of dies. And then my phone blows up about 5 minutes later. The 6 is closed. We're going to the White Bear Bar.
Well, the buddy that wanted to do it, he calls me and goes, I got about 100 people coming. We're going to do this. And one of the funniest things, if you listen to the video on Twitter, you hear a woman go, that's it? Because it wouldn't what I did. This is a thing I did that was so bad. I wet down 2 napkins and put them over my areolas, like my nipples, because
like
I was
marathoner.
Because I didn't know how fast it was going to ignite. And I think because it was wet on the sides, I only had the runway. And it kind of damaged the landing strip.
Well, like I said, my speculation is that landing strip was soaked because that's like the funnel. That's the river
from
basin.
The sweat?
From your sweat.
See, this is a harder question than cabbage.
So
cottage.
We get to
cabbage. Speaking of cabbage, if you like coleslaw, you should work with Jimmy's salad dressings and dips. It's coleslaw season, folks. And some of the slaw laws that are out there is you should always give coleslaw a place at the table. If you're barbecuing, don't sleep on the slaw. Get Jimmy's coleslaw. They got regular, they got pineapple, they got fat-free. You can find it at Cub Foods, usually in the refrigerated section. Homegrown Minnesota company, 3rd generation family. Jimmy's salad dressings and dips. Get them for your coleslaw. Don't ya be messing with the dressing. Wow, a seamless transition.
That was good. And if you don't have a bowl for your coleslaw, you can now use Kinger's chest and the cave between his pecs because it's silky smooth.
The funny thing is, I was swimming the next day, and there was a mom in the kiddie pool, and I had this. It's just a strip. It looks like Steve Kirill in 40-Year-Old Virgin, and she had to be like, I wonder what happened to him. Did he have a appendix surgery and they only shaved the middle?
So nobody's ever been kicked out of White Bear Bar before. You're right. It's like the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah.
Cash only.
Somebody's been kicked out of Guns N' Roses, and nobody's been kicked out of the White Bear Bar. That should be their motto.
Like
cash only women work there.
Yep.
Never seen a guy in the place that's a service, like a person that works there. Ever. Have you?
No, I've been there twice, and both times in like the last year.
You've only been there twice in your life?
No, twice. The last 2 times I've been there, the last 2 times you burnt your chest hair. So I walk in, and boom, your chest is on fire again. The lady comes over the top.
That's not true. We were there another time, and we won $2,000 on pull tabs.
Yeah, that's the night you burnt your chest hair.
No, it isn't. No, I burned my chest hair the night before Halloween, like 2 years ago, when you were randomly there. We weren't such good friends back then.
But so she comes over the top rope. She literally climbs the bar to come over to tell you.
And then the point.
To scream at you. I've never seen anybody get in trouble at the White Bear Bar before.
And
to
maybe
stop
knew
doing
my
that.
first name. Maybe yelled John. Even.
Yeah, stop
That's
doing
even worse.
that. It stinks. Meanwhile, it reeked like skunk in there because I don't know.
Just because of how it normally smells, right?
Well, that, and I don't know if somebody's got a grow house in the basement or something, but it was marijuana,
chest hair wasn't
marijuana and chest hair. It was honestly like the combination. What is that? Black Panther
It was a special night.
on Anchorman. It smells like
yeah.
Bigfoot's unit.
Yeah.
Burnt hair in Bigfoot's unit. That's what wiper bars smell like.
We got to get out
Anyways,
of this.
all right, schedule.
So I looked at the schedule for all you folks at home. Interesting, I didn't realize this. Last year, the first game was on October 15th, and they played through April 29th, which is why we had the game on April 26th, which is Kirill's birthday. Hopefully he'll be in America celebrating it this year. Now this year, we're starting on the 13th, about the same, but the season ends on April 13th. They got rid of that Olympic weirdness that they have. So when I looked at here's the home games I'm intrigued with. The first 3 games, it's the group of death. So start against the Rangers, home opener. Fifi comes back against the Kings 10-15.
Fifi.
Colorado 10-17 Cup champs. I mean, that is the group of death. If this was the World Cup, I know Vancouver's in this group, the first 4 games, but that group of 3, any of those games is going to give you a bellwether on what we're dealing with this year. I'm very intrigued with the Turkey Trot. Winnipeg 11-23, Leafs 11-25. Whether you want the biggest night out of the year, the night before Thanksgiving, Jets fans travel. That'll be a wild atmosphere. Or you're swimming at Lifetime, getting a smoothie, Leafs the day after Thanksgiving. Or maybe wind it up. That's a Friday too. So that is a really nice 2-stepper around Thanksgiving. Hockey Day, Minnesota, the 28th. They play Buffalo late. I think it's an 8 p.m. start. Calgary 3-7 will be the second of a back-to-back. I always kind of circle those back-to-backs because usually something happens the first game and you get the response.
Yeah, you mean home and home?
Yeah, home and home. Sorry, home and home. And then this St. Patrick's Day, 3/18 Boston. I know St. Patrick's Day is the 17th, but Boston is pretty 4-leaf cloverish,
right.
And having that Saturday game, Boston. And then Sunday, they play Washington the same weekend. So that was the home stuff that I liked. Do you like any of that?
Yeah, I loved it.
You should do all these games. All the games that I'm talking about, I want you on the color.
So
can you do dibs?
Because you're going to be at those games, and that way you don't have to listen to me. Is that what you're saying?
How does that work with the schedule? Could you ever put in say I'd like to do these games like you're sharing season tickets?
Yeah, I don't know.
Find out. Okay, road games. Seattle on a Friday night, 11-11. I guess if you wanted to travel and see a new place, we play St. Louis on New Year's Eve. Kind of a rematch, a Winter Classic.
Yeah, just the day before then, because it was January 1 last year.
That's right. Very intrigued with February 6th at Arizona. That's the first day of the Waste Management.
Yeah.
Tasty.
And that'd actually be a good 1-2 punch because they're playing in that college arena now. I'm curious to see what that's going to look like.
That could be a little Stanley on 7th road trip.
Ooh.
To the AZ. That's probably my favorite game of the year, 2-6 AZ. It is a Monday. You got Florida and Tampa, 121 and 124, a Saturday and a Tuesday. So if you're escaping the Minnesota winter, Vegas on the 9th. And then Vegas on a Saturday, April 1st. So a lot of people, I will say this schedule is hard to build road trips around. There weren't enough amazing cities on Friday and Saturday nights.
Okay.
There's Nashville on the 13th, but that's the last game of the year. You didn't get a lot of Montreal on a Friday. Vegas on a Saturday. If you did, it's super late. I actually think some of the home games are more interesting than the road games, with the exception of that random AZ Waste Management tasty treat.
That would be fun. Yeah, it's hard. The other hard part about road trips is you're just going for one game then.
I know.
Because you're not catching them. There's always travel. You might catch a back-to-back Friday, Saturday night, but you're going to have to jump on a plane.
Even the New York two-step is a Tuesday, Thursday. Mm-hmm. That's always a fun one, Rangers, Islanders, but they're Tuesday and Thursday night, so you're basically blowing off a whole week of work if you do that.
I mean, every night in New York City can be Friday night. There's always a spot.
This is the truth. But how great would it be a Friday Rangers, Sunday Islanders?
That'd be wow.
In and out.
Sundays I just already feel anxiety because I had such a big Friday, if that were the case. But
yeah, I like that you have a little anxiety. It's unexpected. I think what's his name did that to you. Who was in Toronto? Carlisle.
Yeah, but I had him in Anaheim.
That's right. He was also in Toronto.
He was.
Anything else to finish here?
Well, I think what we should finish on is, okay, so we've gotten through the draft and free agency, and a lot changed for the Wild. Not a lot changed on the Wild, but a lot changed for the Wild. Like across the league, some pretty big things happened. You know, some of the guys out west moved. You had Johnny Gaudreau going over to the east. Nazem Kadri, obviously that's still up in the air. Chicago decided that they are playing for
a guy named what's his name? What's the rookie next year?
Don't know, but they're playing for the lottery, right?
Yeah, there's a generational talent next year. I'll get it. Go ahead.
It's kind of crazy though that they even got rid of their
Connor Bedard. That's who they're playing for.
Yeah. They got rid of their pieces like that could be good too. You know, like Kirby Dach, he's still young.
Yeah, stud.
DeBrincat's, what was he, 25 years old?
Natural goal scorer. Yeah. Hard to find.
And they're just like, all right, let's do it. Let's unload. So looking at the Central, the Wild's path now to success looks a little easier. Chicago, I mean, they're just not going to be competitive. Arizona, I don't think that they've taken a huge step. You know, they maybe some of their young guys might get a little bit better and they might give you more of a hard time, but those are games that you're absolutely going to be expected to win. Now I've got Nashville. They re-signed Forsberg. They lost their backup goaltender. They brought in Chicago's old backup goaltender in Lankinen. I think they've been pretty quiet. So that's going to be a very similar team coming back. Winnipeg's going to have the new coach. Dallas has got Pete DeBoer too. So if it takes these coaches a little bit to implement their system, they could be behind the eight ball at that November. You know, a lot of
Thanksgiving,
say,
right?
If you're out by then, it's hard to get back in. But there's a lot of things that have changed. You know, Winnipeg new coach, Dallas new coach, Colorado they've lost some pieces. Depends on Kadri, but you know Burakovsky's gone, Kemper's gone, and I don't know. They still have their core, which we spent a lot of time talking about today, back. So they're still going to be competitive. They still have Makar, McKinnon, Landeskog, Rantanen, Girard, Byram, right? But they went out and at the most critical position, goaltender, they trade for Georgiev and. You know, they give him a contract. Is he proven? Who knows? And maybe they're willing to roll the dice because they thought the same with Kemper. It worked then. They'll try it again. But St. Louis, that's going to be a different looking club. Think about how good. Do you think St. Louis beats the Wild without David Perron? I don't think they do.
No, definitely not.
And he's not back there, right?
Yeah, he's a handful in the playoffs too.
And you look at it and you say, okay, the Wild lost Kevin Fiala and they haven't been able to replace him with like a roster player yet either. So the Central, a lot has changed. But if you look at it, I think you can say Colorado's going to be up there. St. Louis, we'll see. Billy Husso carried the torch for them. They got rid of Husso. He's now in Detroit. Binnington's their number one guy, and that's who they're going to roll with now, right?
Yep.
So that's a different situation. But Colorado's going to be up there. Dallas seems to always just find a way to be steady Eddie. They're never like great, but they're never like bad. You know, it's weird. But Pete DeBoer, we'll see what he can do with some of these young guys, Robertson, whatever. But I like the Wild's chances. In the Central, it seemed that it was the toughest division for a handful of years. Now the salary cap and having to pay some of these guys for their success has caused them to move some pieces out. And now it might be a slightly easier path for the Wild to get through their division. But pretty intriguing beginning of July for the Wild and at least their division and their path for the playoffs.
So you're saying status quo is Stanley quo?
I think it could be.
I like it. Quiet feet. You soothed some of my nerves. Kirill, if you're hearing this, if you're out there, snap a picture holding a newspaper so we know you're okay. We're thinking about you. We're here.
Till it's here.